What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. Oh man, boxing is down bad. The only thing down badder than boxing itself is PBC slash Errol Spence fans. You man are sick right now. Oh man, get well soon, Errols. Get well soon. This is fake. I'm telling you, man, now. I don't believe it for 1 second. Yeah? I don't believe this for 1 second. And all of you goofy PBC and Errol Spence fans, make sure you keep the same energy, because I can't lie to you, man. Tyson Fury was lying too, but let's call a spade here. They're all lying. Tyson Fury lied about C19, that's a fact. And Errol Spence lied about his eye. Bottom line, so make sure you man keep the same consistent energy. Fake news is fake news. They're man lying. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to explain to you, man, give you, man, the facts right now why Errol Spence is lying about this injury. In fact, I'm going to tell you the truth about why he pulled out to start with. The reason Errol Spence has pulled out is because he is shook to bits of Manny Pacquiao. I've got some more videos coming soon, later in the week, and you're going to see Pacquiao's hands were on fire. Spence don't want none of that. That's the truth. I've already done videos on it. I've done videos of the psychological operation Manny Pacquiao was running on Errol Spence. Errol Spence, he thought, you know what, Manny Pacquiao looking a little too sharp. I ain't feeling this. I'm out of here. It makes me laugh, the fact that it's all so ironic that number one, PBC fans called out Tyson Fury, and then all of a sudden they've lost the energy for their own man. But most importantly, again, PBC fans, everyone was shilling for Caleb Plant. Oh man, why should Caleb Plant pay $40 million if he pulls out? Oops. Now you know why Canelo Alvarez wants his money. Because he knows what you goofies be doing. Playing goofy games, pulling out every 5 seconds. Don't forget that. I think it's hilarious that Errol Spence don't have no problem fighting all of his bum in-house fighters. The minute he's fighting someone who's not fixed, the minute he's fighting someone who ain't going to jump on the floor, PBC style, take a dive, or stand there like Mikey Garcia or Danny Garcia, stand there for 11 rounds and not fight back, all of a sudden, Errol Spence, he injured. Mr. Iron sharpens iron. I don't get it. How have you been putting out all of these videos and promo videos and sparring videos if you're injured? Oops. But anyway, we're going to get to that. So, let me read you, man, the statement here from Errol Spence. He said, I'm very disappointed that I won't be able to fight Manny Pacquiao. I was excited about the fight. Unfortunately, the doctors found a tear in my left eye and said I need surgery on it ASAP. The doctors said there was no way I could fight with my eye in that condition. Now, Errol Spence goes on to say, well, let me give you, man, the wider context here. Essentially, Errol Spence alleges it was the test by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. In the lead up to fight week, boxers undergo a number of tests. Errol Spence is alleging this was one of the commission, NSAC, Nevada State Athletic Commission's standard tests that he's essentially failed. That's what he alleges. But what I struggle with here is, he says, as you just heard, that his eye was too bad. There's no way, the doctors have said there's no way he could have possibly fought with his eye like that. My question to you, man, is that why would it take a test from NSAC to tell you that your eye is damaged? Yeah? Now, the retina, or your eye in general, but in particular the retina, that communicates information with your brain. So if your retina's torn, you're not going to be seeing properly. That's a fact. If your retina is torn, you are not going to be seeing properly. Or at some level, you're going to be having discomfort and or issues with your vision. Fact. We've seen videos, promo videos, documentary videos of Errol Spence doing the most in sparring. Don't forget, boxers, if you haven't already noticed, are precision athletes. They rely, or so obviously most sports are precision, but in particular boxing. Boxing is a precision sport. You need your eyesight. Errol Spence has been boxing and using his eyes for 20 years. Are you telling me it took a doctor to tell him that there's something wrong with his eyes? Are you telling me he didn't notice something was up with his eyes? Oh, wait there a minute, so your eyes was fine, and it took a doctor to tell you that you can't fight, there's no way you could fight like that. What? Don't make no sense. And that's the point here. They're lying. There's nothing wrong with his eye. Because if there was, he would have been the one to find it. Yep, I've been having problems with my eye for a while, and there it is. It wouldn't take a random doctor test to find it out that your eye is so bad that you can't fight. That don't make no sense. It's paradoxical. And the worst thing is that he hasn't even come out and said that, oh yeah, my eye has been giving me trouble. He's alleging that everything was fine, I was sparring yesterday essentially, and then all of a sudden they're telling me it's super bad, that it must be operated on immediately. That's interesting. For such a medical emergency, how come you didn't notice? It's almost like a doctor saying, well, YB, you can't possibly fight because your arm's hanging off. Well, why, innit? What, you didn't notice your arm was hanging off before the doctor? Don't make no sense whatsoever. Don't make no sense. And what we often find in these situations is things that tend not to make sense when they're fake. Same as Lyson Fury. Lyson Fury and his C19 didn't make no sense from start to finish. And I'm just waiting now for the follow-up, because these guys tend to be sloppy. So expect Errol Spence will show no evidence of a surgery, he'll show no evidence of a recovery, and he'll show even a diagnosis. I'm not sure how they diagnose a torn retina, but where's the scans? There must be some level of diagnosis, because the thing is, Errol Spence has clearly said the Athletic Commission found something wrong. So all you need to do, Errol Spence, is publish what they found wrong. Because this isn't a case of, well, my eye was hurting and they've found... No, you said there was nothing wrong with your eye, and they found it. So please just publish what they found. Where's the evidence? Because the LDBC and the PBC, you was all slagging off, and rightfully so, but either way, you were slagging off Tyson Fury for not showing no evidence of C19. Well, it's about time you man show some evidence of this eye tear. Post it up. I don't want to hear about, oh, it's medical information, because you man weren't talking about medical information, you was talking about proof when it was Lyson Fury. Now, me personally, I'm neutral. I'm for boxing, and I think they both stink. I think it's amazing that 10 days before the fight, all of a sudden, you'd be injured. And that begs another question. Wait a minute. And we've all seen this, we've all seen all the documentary videos of Errol Spence sparring, etc., etc. Errol Spence doing videos, Errol Spence doing the most, just fine. And now 10 days before, right, anyone who knows anything about boxing, boxers in particular, because of how dangerous their sport is, especially before a big fight. Before a big fight, most boxers switch off from anything between 2 and 4 weeks before the fight. They'll stop hard sparring. Why? Because most boxers, even when switching off hard sparring, most boxers will go into a fight with niggles, with injuries. So to minimise that, they end up shutting down and stopping hard sparring 2 to 4 weeks before. So even if you say, well, YB 4 weeks is too long, 2 weeks. Errol Spence had stopped sparring 4 days ago, or would have stopped heavy sparring 4 to 10 days ago. But only now, innit? How does that make sense? I'm struggling to understand how Errol Spence would have been struggling with an eye in this condition for 10 days and not notice himself. It's baffling. Absolutely baffling. It makes no sense, and this is often how lies goes. Lies tend to not make any sense whatsoever. How have you managed to damage your eye and you're not even in hard training right now? It's a paradox. Oh, we're not sparring hard because we're all kind of easing off now, given that the fight's in 10 days. Oops, so why are you pulling out for? Because you wouldn't even be working hard right now. And you've just admitted that you couldn't feel it yourself. So wait a minute, it was so bad. Check this out. Errol Spence's injury is so bad that he must be pulled out immediately and have no... What do they call it? Yeah, he must be pulled out immediately and have no... What's the word? Have no reschedule date. Errol Spence's eye injury is so bad, he's had to pull out immediately, be operated on immediately, not be able to reschedule, completely cancel the fight. Oh, but you couldn't feel it. But oh, it wasn't bad enough to notice yourself. It's a paradox. It's a contradiction. If your eye is that bad that all these things need to happen immediately, how come your eye didn't notify? How come your own eye didn't notify your own brain? Since everyone else is so worried about it, why weren't you worried about it as such? Because I'm sorry, anyone who has injuries knows, obviously, it's not rocket science, obviously, the person who the injury affects, they're normally the first ones to air concerns. You know what, my eye's been playing up, check it out. That's not what he says. He says that he was all fine, and he went to the doctor and they've magically told him his eye's falling off. Come on, man, get serious. And the eye, this is the thing as well, the eyes are so sensitive. Like, for example, if an eyelash drops into your eye, yeah, it feels like there's rocks in there. Now, that's not the perfect example, but the retina and the eye in general is so sensitive. You would know a tiny tear in your retina would affect your vision massively noticeably, especially when you're a boxer, someone who's used to using the precision of their eyes. You'd notice. Bottom line, you'd notice. So for him to say it's super bad, but he ain't noticed, I don't believe it. I don't believe none of it. I don't believe the Nevada State Athletic Commission has said anything. Actually, from what I'm hearing, Errol Spence has dragged the NS, what do they call it, NSAC. He's dragged NSAC into this. I don't believe they've mentioned anything. I think that Errol Spence doesn't want to be seen as calling the fight off himself, so he's put it on NSAC. Oh, look, NSAC told me I'm too sick to fight, kind of thing. Because he doesn't want to be seen as the man. He doesn't want it on his own shoulders. He doesn't want to take responsibility. Oh, doctors told me I can't fight. Sorry. Kind of thing. Rather than saying, yep, I'm too hurt, I can't fight, he wants to put it on the doctors. So it takes responsibility from his shoulders and puts it on. So, oh, well, I would have loved to have fought, but NSAC said I can't. Yeah, cool story, bro. You're fine. You're just fine. You're shook of Manny Pacquiao. That's the truth. Truth is, Manny Pacquiao was fixing to split your buns. Because we know for a fact Errol Spence has two nice, lovely buns. And Pacquiao was fixing to split them. That's the truth. And the worst thing is, I told you, man, that in my last video, and to be honest with you, I'm feeling guilty. I think the YB was the one to turn this fight off, because before the YB started doing videos on this, your man Errol Spence was feeling confident. Then I started putting videos out telling you, man, that, putting the videos out there that Errol Spence was fixing to get his bun split by Pacquiao. All of a sudden, Spence shook. And I'm thinking to myself, do you know how old Pacquiao is? Like, all jokes aside, even if Errol Spence's retina's split, yeah, Pacquiao's eyes are so old, they're probably about the same. Does that make sense? Errol Spence's eyes with the split is probably about equal to Pacquiao's eyes, given the age. Especially when, what do we know? Errol Spence, we've seen the footage, he's been sparring just fine. He's been active in the gym. He hasn't noticed himself. So if his eyes are so good, he hasn't noticed himself. What's the problem here? Errol Spence hasn't communicated any discomfort or any problems. He says it's all the Athletic Commission. So what's the issue then? If the Athletic Commission say one thing and Errol Spence say he's fine, then what's the big deal? Let him fight on. I'm sure Manny Pacquiao at 45 years old has problems too. Crack on. And I find it hilarious all the PBC are talking about, oh man, Manny Pacquiao said that his arm was hurt versus Floyd Mayweather. That was 10 years ago now. The point is, your man Errol Spence is in his prime. Pacquiao is 15 years older. And your man's the one dropping out. Wow, it's bad. Boxing's in a shocking place. And I'm glad I feel vindicated now, because I was telling you, man, a little while ago that there's levels to the character of fighters. And I said that fighters from the 80s, 90s and early 2000s, they're cut from a different cloth. Pacquiao is one of those. And even Floyd, he's moist and used to run, but when it came to it, if it had come to it, I reckon he would have shown that he is from that cloth. I do believe he would have been able to grit his teeth if he was pushed there, to be fair to him. Guess what? There ain't no fighters like that these days. All the fighters these days, they're scary. And it's all kind of making sense now again, because what do we know? I swear down, I didn't do a video on it, but in my mind, my alarm bells were ringing when I heard all of a sudden, about 4 or 5 days ago, yeah, about 4 or 5 days ago, a load of news updates came out saying Errol Spence reaches out to Terence Crawford, saying that he loves Crawford and saying that he'll never put another black fighter down, and saying that he loves Crawford and saying that the fight will happen. I swear to God, I started seeing all these news articles about Errol Spence reaching out to Terence Crawford. I thought, what? This just smells, something's fishy. And I swear to God, I should have done a video on it, because I said, you know what, it's something's not right here. Now, I'm not going to make out I knew Errol Spence was going to pull out, but I knew something was fishy. Something didn't sit right with me, because Errol Spence has had nothing good to say about Terence Crawford for 4 years. Never. Now all of a sudden, before his big fight, 10 days out, all of a sudden it's focused on Terence Crawford. Why would you, innit? You're 10 days out from your biggest fight of your life, and you're talking about Crawford, a man that you wouldn't dare name for 4 years. But 10 days before your most biggest fight, all you can talk about is Crawford. That just seemed off-key for me, and now we know why. What was Spence doing? Again, he was doing a psychological operation on the fans. He's trying to soften the blow. Well, I'm going to pull out of this fight, but I'm going to at least open up the possibility of a Crawford fight. That's what he was doing. He knew the Pacquiao fight was done, and this for me is more proof that Errol Spence's injury is a lie. Because Spence knew, you know what, if I'm going to pull out of this Pacquiao fight, I've at least, before I pull out, I need to let the fans know that this Crawford fight is a possibility, so they don't grill me. Because now, all that Spence has got to do now is start shilling for the Crawford fight, and then pull out of that and go back to what he was doing. You know what I'm trying to say? While Spence plays this injury thing, yeah? For the next 6 months, while Spence is in this fake injury, there'll be loads of talk about the Crawford fight. Oh, the Pacquiao fight fell through, but we're going to do the Crawford fight. Then when that injury story is done, yeah, you'll hear the Crawford fight go back to will get thrown to the side again, and Spence will carry on. And another thing, from what I'm hearing, Spence ideally wants to duck Pacquiao. He knows that Pacquiao's on the way out, so what he's going to do is he's going to lay low for 6 months to a year. Pacquiao will retire, and Spence will come out and say, "Oh man, yeah, man, he's scary. He don't want to fight. See, he didn't want to fight me, and yeah, I'm a lion, iron sharpen." And that's another thing. Don't let me hear. None of you goofy PBC cats, none of you goofy Errol Spence fans, don't let me hear about iron sharpens iron again. I don't want to hear it, because guess what? If iron was sharpening that much iron, why don't you go and sharpen Pacquiao? How about that, innit? What happened to iron sharpen? Oh man, I'm from Texas, and iron sharpens iron. Well, obviously it don't, because your eyes bust, yeah? Your eyes bust, boss, so you iron don't sharpen iron. Your eyes bust up, so you ain't sharpening ish, are you? You ain't sharpening nothing. Because if you was, you'd go in there with a 45-year-old man. This is shocking. But, in all fairness, this does sum up the sport of boxing. This sums up the state of boxing right now. The state of boxing is, it's full of scary wannabes. And I do blame Floyd Mayweather to an extent, because whilst Floyd Mayweather he did have some of the old school in him, but he was the last one to have any of that. And what he did, the way he came along and the way he started picking fights, he essentially ruined boxing. Ruined it, in my opinion. Because now all it's about is how you can pick fights. Picking, that's all it's about now. It's not about any substance, it's about how you can pick fights. And the worst thing is, fans are even supporting it now. They're saying, "Oh man, well Billy Hill Saunders, he quit, but but it's about making money, get the bag." That's all people. Boxing fans, a lot of boxing fans are so low IQ, they encourage people ducking fights and making money. It's crazy, but that's, to be fair, it makes sense, because we know for a fact that cucks exist. We know for a fact there's men out there who like to watch their wives getting slammed. So it's no real surprise that people like to pay to watch people fight bumps. That's the last of people's worries. Their wife's getting railed, so I'm sure they don't have a problem making fighters rich, whilst they just pay for crap fights. So it's not really surprising, but either way, you cuck dons, you boxing cucks, wow, you down bad right now. And your man Spence, wow, But I'd love to say no, I will say this. I was about to say I'm surprised, but I can't lie. I was surprised, but in my surprise of this pullout, I do have to say I have now seen it all. Inasmuch as this summer, I was almost celebrating, saying, "Wow, we've got so many fights this summer." Because we had McTapper, we had AJ, we had loads of fights coming up, and now half of them are gone. Boxing is in a shambles, if the truth be known, because the Conor McGregor fight, that's UFC. Literally, half of the boxing. In fact, what boxing fights have we had? Because Fury pulled out, Spence pulled out, so that was half of them. Literally, what have we had this summer? Nothing. We've got Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley, which doesn't even really count because that's more of an entertainment fight. But that just goes to show UFC and entertainers perform more than real so-called boxers. And that's why I don't want to hear no one telling me about you need to respect boxers. I don't give up about boxers. How about that? You earn respect. You don't just get it for jumping in the ring with bums, with people you know you can beat. Because Errol Spence never had a problem going in there with bums. All of a sudden he's going in there with someone who wants to win, and he injured. Yeah, he injured. He got excuses. And I won't even mind, but the lies don't sit well with me. And let's say I'm wrong, yeah? What I don't understand is why you man can sit there and say, "Oh, YB, you're wrong, he's definitely injured." If these men are definitely injured, why do they never post the proof first? "Oh man, well it's because it's medical information, who cares? We're not talking about your willy, are we? We're talking about your eye. What do you mean medical information? If it was me, yeah, bearing in mind you've let down millions of fans, just post the X-ray or post the MRI, whatever scan it was, post it and say, "Listen, sorry fans to let you down, but this is the situation." Boom. Instead, we get talk, and no evidence ever. And I'm sorry, when I see no evidence, it smells fishy, because if it happened, innit? Think about it. And if you disagree, tell me why you disagree. What's so personal that sharing a scan would be a problem? I mean, for example, look at Kell Brook. Kell Brook alleged his eye was broken. Guess what? He showed the scans. Oops. Which proves that's what you do when you're really injured. You share the scans. And the worst thing is, Kell Brook wasn't even injured before a fight, if that makes sense. Kell Brook was injured during a fight. He actually turned up to his fight. He didn't pull out and then have no evidence. Kell Brook got whooped and then showed the evidence, which is much more manly. I mean, getting whooped during a fight, that's one thing. Pulling out before a fight and not having no evidence is absolutely shocking. It's the worst sin. For me, that's the bottom line from now on. If you pull out and don't show no evidence, you're faking. It's as simple as that. I don't want to hear it. Absolutely as simple as that. That needs to be the precedent boxing fans set. If you pull out of a fight and don't show no evidence, you're a lying fake, and you should be stripped. That's what that's what the boxing people should start doing from now on. If you listen, but YB, it's private information. You man don't have a problem sharing all your pay-per-views publicly, do you? Think about that for a second. All these big boxers, Errol Spence here, didn't have a problem sharing his pay-per-view promotion publicly, did he? Oh no, wait a minute. So what? So you want the public's pay-per-view money, but you don't want to show the public when it goes the other way and you pull out, and people who have paid thousands of dollars for tickets and for flights and for hotels lose their money. Oops.